Hey and welcome to the Creative Odyssey podcast, a podcast about entrepreneurship, creativity and personal growth by me, Emil Ruth. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alexis Papathanassis. I'm a professor at the Bremerhaven University of Applied Sciences, and I've been researching in tourism, more specifically in maritime tourism, for the last 20 years. Before that, I was working in tourism. I started my career at TUI and climbed up to become a departmental leader. And before that, I even grew up in a tourism family, a family of entrepreneurs in tourism, actually. Managed to play a big role in developing tourism on the island of Rhodes, and then to in the rest of Greece as well. So my mother was a guide, a tourist guide. So to put it simply, all I know is tourism, and all I've experienced is tourism for the last 10 years, and I'm still very excited about it. So I'll be happy to talk to you about anything you want to talk about when it comes to tourism and entrepreneurship for that.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So tourism is really in your veins, in your DNA, so to speak, and good to know how your family influenced you in that field. What specifically made you fall in love with tourism?
Well, a lot of childhood memories, actually. I grew up in that environment. Tourism was always an issue in our family life, in our daily family life. And my mother used to take me to excursions with her, also as a small kid. So I had this contact with many different kinds of people there, many different kinds of cultures, etc. And I've always found the openness and curiosity that tourism professionals carry with them refreshing. And I kind of adopted this, and I'm always very excited about something that is new. I think to a certain degree, most people are afraid of the unknown. They are afraid of change. They are afraid of the unfamiliar. If you spend a few years in tourism and live it, you actually get energized by it, and it becomes part of who you are, and you can't live without it. So even nowadays, I always try at least once a year to visit a place which I've never been before, which is totally exotic and totally different and totally strange, because it energized me. It's become increasingly difficult because I've traveled a lot for the past years. I'm practically 50 and I've been traveling all my life, both privately as well as professionally. But I become a richer person and a happier person simply by encountering the unfamiliar, the strange. And I guess this is what I love most about it.
Yeah, thank you. What was the last very surprising destination?
The last one was this year, China. Very interesting because it's a totally different environment. It's quite interesting also to see with what kind of expectations one goes there based on what people hear. And I'm talking about China, I'm talking about mainland China.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Shanghai and let's say the ones with a bit more westernized areas, but I'm talking about mainland China. And it's quite interesting to see what kind of preconceptions people have and communicate also in our part of the world. And then you go over there, you see something totally different. And very exciting. And there's so much to experience in terms of culture, in terms of way of life, in terms of how tourism is actually organized there. And for me, obviously, as a scientist, to see the potential of tourism for foreign tourism, because domestically they have a lot of tourism there actually.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting to see all this, and it was one in a lifetime experience. So, and I had this the year before when I went to Japan, and the year before, and the year before. There's always places where you realize, I say, wow. I mean, recently I went to Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
I traveled to Lebanon, which was again extremely, extremely interesting, and again a beautiful place for holidays. So it's I keep getting this experience where there's a preconception and it's largely mediated by the media, and the
Yeah.
media do always focus, let's say, on the extremes and the negatives. But when you actually go there and experience it yourself, you get a totally different view of things, and it enables you to have a more balanced view of what is actually going on. And I think if you see the geopolitical developments nowadays, and what's happening, and how we all sit in our echo chamber with social media, where the algorithm decides what we see and what we don't, I think seeing things with your own eyes is more valuable and important as it has ever been. And I think this is where tourism has a lot to offer.
Yeah, tourism definitely makes the process of visiting other countries a lot more achievable and a bit more convenient. I mean, you're a pro-level tourist as well as a professional researcher on the topic, but I guess there are many places that are more frequently visited and more or less frequently visited, like mainland China, or highly touristic places like the Balearic Islands in Spain or Paris, or there's a question that is just where I'm just curious. How do you pick out places to travel to?
How do I pick up places? Well, normally it's I'm thinking, okay, where have I not been yet?
Yeah.
And then I say, well, maybe we could go this place this year. Another issue is that to some degree, because of my specialization, I am one of the few worldwide that deals with cruise tourism. I have the privilege to be often invited as a keynote speaker to various conferences all over the world, and I've managed to create a name for myself and for a university in this area over the last decades. And this means I get obviously invited in places where you would not actually think of going. You end up going there, and besides the conference, there's also a cultural program, and you're able to. You're basically hosted, and you experience the hospitality of colleagues, local colleagues in those areas, and it allows you to get a very good view of what actually is going on and what are the real topics. And therefore, to a certain degree, I choose on the basis, to come back to your question, I choose on the basis of where I have not been before.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the destination chooses me in terms of where I'm invited.
Yeah, being invited is definitely one big reason to find a place to go to. And as you said, the hospitality makes this a whole other experience where I think it's more connected than just being a brief visitor with little to no connection to the culture of each place.
But this has become a bit easier nowadays. Alone Google Maps makes let's say all kinds of content which is available, not just in websites or in user review sites, but also in YouTube, etc. Mm-hmm. It facilitates the organization of the trip to a degree which I would say 10 years ago this was unimaginable. Mm-hmm. So provided now, even with AI, I think a lot of people, I think something like 40% of people actually use AI to actually plan their tours and what they're going to see, etc., which has become very easy. So if you compare this to 10 years ago, you are basically really shooting in the dark, depending on where you're going and how do you find information. And the technology has made things a lot easier. So if you're willing to actually invest a bit of time to research on the places you're going to go and decide what you want to do, you are able to actually put a lot of experiences and gain a lot of memories to take back with you and know-how in a very, very short time. So I think nowadays we are empowered as tourists more than we were before.
That's a good point. And another thing is where like the destination is the goal in itself, is definitely cruise tourism. So why exactly cruise tourism is your specific field?
Oh, it was a bit by accident. Well, again, as you can see, a lot of it is actually luck. It only makes sense afterwards. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I would have never imagined all this when I started. I mean, I come originally, my family, from the so-called incoming business. So this is basically the business part of the value chain, where once you arrive at your destination, you need to be taken care of. So you do excursions, you need to be transferred to your hotel, transferred back to the airport. If you get problems or you need some kind of support, there's someone there for you, and so on. That's just all incoming, because about the tourists who are coming in. That's why it's called incoming. And I think now in the modern terminology, they call it destination management companies. In my time, we used to call them incoming agencies. So this is where I come from. When I went to TUI, I kind of climbed up into the value chain and came to the tour operating part, which has to do a lot with putting the whole big package together. So what they're actually doing is they're taking transport services, mostly flights nowadays, and accommodation services, which are predominantly hotels, and putting them together into a package in order to sell it in the travel agencies or online.
Yeah.
So basically, I kind of moved from the destination management area to the next level of the value chain towards the customer, which was the tour operator. And this is where I started as a trainee and went to different stations. So I got an overview. I was called the management trainee. So after having a master, completing my master's program, they would select in a quite rigorous procedure, like 10 of us, which were meant to get management positions in the company after they had completed this trainee program, which is going into different departments and spending a few months there and a few months there in order to see how things are working and to get an overview of this whole business and the value chain. And so in this time, I also had the opportunity to work as a tour guide, let's say at the destination, to work as an assistant destination manager. I went to the Department of Strategic Development of the company, call center, customer contact. So I got a good overview, and then I continued from there. So this is basically how it all developed over time. But I need to come back to your question. What was the original question again? Sorry, I lost track.
It's don't worry. I'm here for getting off track. So the original question was how you got into cruise tourism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back again. And then there was a point where I went to the IT department of TUI, and one of my major tasks was to harmonize the system landscapes of all the daughter companies, because you must understand that the tourism is a very information-intensive business.
Yeah.
I think banks and the banking sector, the tourist sector, have the oldest and most expensive IT installations in the world. It's all about information. So there was a time where TUI went to a shopping spree when it was acquired by Prozac, that later became TUI AG. They started buying tour operators in all major European source markets. Now, you must imagine all those companies have their own IT landscapes, different applications, different booking engines, different supporting systems for the rest of the process. So once those companies became one, in order to get the synergies, it was necessary to change the processes and harmonize it to see what makes sense to do together and what not. And in order to adjust the processes, obviously it was necessary to also adjust the systems and harmonize the different IT landscapes. So this was my last project. And this is when I went a bit into the whole idea, the whole area of IT and tourism, which was my original research area and actually the topic of my PhD. And eventually I wanted, after years, I wanted to move upwards, let's say to become, maybe join the board of directors. But I was told that I'm too young and I should be patient. And this was the point where I started saying, well, if I'm too young, then I would probably need to go and mature somewhere else. Yep. And I started looking, and there was this professorship available here in Bremerhaven, and I was very young at the time. I was 29. And I said, you know, what the hell? Let's try it and see what happens. So I tried it, and I went through the process, and eventually I got the professorship. And then I said, why not? I can do it for a couple of years and then take it from there. And the couple of years have become a couple of decades. Simply because I can tell you why. I simply love this job. It's the best job in the world, and you have autonomy. You can do and pursue your interest and do something meaningful, which is educating young people to a certain degree, and also trying to, let's say, educate the wider society with your research. So I think this gives me a lot of satisfaction and pleasure, and that's why I'm excited to do this until today. And now coming back to the question, when I applied, there was a profession called Touristic Z-Touristic. The idea was that Bremerhaven said, well, tourism is becoming important for the local economy, or for the regional economy, and we're a maritime resort, maritime city, so we should try and combine those two things, and then maritime tourism. So this was the, let's say, the area which I applied for, and I had some experience with the cruise tourism and shipping from my incoming times. We were, my family were also handling cruise ships at the time, which there were quite a few coming to roads in the beginning. So I went on this, and it was an area where nobody was really interested about. A lot of my colleagues looked down on it, and it's not like a serious academic discipline. Tourism, who cares? And cruise tourism is not a real subject. And so no one was really keen on let's say, taking the specialization for themselves. And I said, okay, I'll take it. And, for me, I saw it as an opportunity. And then I realized there was absolutely no research in the area also. Apart from a few books, largely descriptive, research was very, very limited. And I said, well, if I've got to teach this subject or this program, and we need also the theoretical foundations which come from research. So I actually had the ambition and started doing research myself. And so a few years later, this helped me gain a position simply because there was a vacuum that nobody wanted to occupy. And I was lucky enough that this tourism form developed and grew exponentially over the last decades. So it left me kind of as a first mover in a very good position. So this is how I got into it, basically. And, it is a very interesting form of tourism because it combines shipping, this whole maritime aspect, with operating and orchestrating holiday experiences.
Yeah, thank you for describing your journey to like cruise tourism and the professorship in the first place. And first off, I'm glad that you found your calling with your profession. That should be the best situation you'll be in a career. And the other thing is that I personally didn't know that you kind of pioneered the research even in that field. And it's really good that you have the
I would,
chance.
I would like to be a bit more humid. That I was not the only one. There were
Hmm.
others internationally, but not many. So, eventually we all contacted each other. We're talking about a handful of people worldwide. And then we regularly came together and decided agendas and so on and so forth. But, in this business, it is about consistency.
Yeah.
Research is a very difficult, long way, and especially if you start competing at the global, international level, there are a lot of very strong competitors, and there are other researchers that have huge teams and a lot of resources.
Hmm.
I don't have that. I'm practically on my own. But what makes the difference is that so I wasn't able to scale that too much. But if you do this over years and you're committed to it, I did manage to create a good reputation for myself and also move up the various impact rankings that we have in science.
Yeah.
So they have quite a few citation and impact rankings that we use in science based on publications. And considering that I come from a small university and I don't have a huge team of researchers mass producing data for me, I have managed to gain a respectable ranking globally in tourism in general, not just in this special area. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful for that, but it's just simply many, many years of every damn day doing what you can do and doing it the best way you can. There's no secret to it.
So persistence and patience is really, yeah.
Consistency, and patience. Or I would like to put the 4 P's, perseverance,
Hmm.
patience, uh, permanence, and Papathanassis is the 4th P.
Yeah, that's a good framework.
Yeah.
And I've kind of lost my point at at the moment.
So asking
But
me how I got into cruise tourism,
yeah.
and then you were trying to say, well, it seems what are the important things of actually trying to succeed and when you find your calling. I think
Mm.
find your calling is what's giving you the necessary uh, emotional skills
Yeah.
because it takes resilience, it takes ambition, it takes patience, it takes the you know uh, putting aside your ego in order to tolerate rejection and failures,
Hmm.
which I can guarantee you everyone has, and I've had my fair share. I still have them all the time. I still fail miserably, and I still get rejected,
Mm.
sometimes unfairly or not. But I never let this stop me, and this is because I actually believe in what I do and I like it. And I've also learned by failing a lot that it's okay, and I just need to keep trying. And it sounds very, very basic, but it works.
Mm. To not give up. And the another aspect I wanted to add is that you definitely managed to stay open and have an open mind towards other cultures, of course, from like a tourist perspective and to learn and to research. But you also try to push the intercultural development at the University of Applied Sciences, as you mentioned before. Why do you think it is so important to have the international mindset?
Well, I mean, simply speaking, it's for me the only viable survival tactic. Um, we don't live on an island. A lot of things are going on, and if if you look at history, we notice patterns. And history does not repeat itself, but certain patterns repeat themselves. So what we're seeing currently is, for example, at all universities like ours is an exception because of the strategy, but that's a different story, have huge trouble fulfilling the capacities with students. But simply, in, let's say, company terms, we don't have enough, put it in tourism terms, we don't get enough reservations to fulfill our capacities. Now, one way, obviously, to deal with that is to actually reduce, let's say, the price, or reduce the, let's say, the obstacles, make it easier for people to enter a study program and so on, so make it easier for them to complete. Another way to go forward is to actually be innovative, offer what others don't.
Yeah.
Classical differentiation, and the program of which you studied reflects exactly that. It's a unique program in Germany, and it's not the first unique program we did in Germany, but it's a strategy that we always do. So we try to differentiate, look for niches. The problem is obviously you need to find niches which are big enough to support a particular volume in order to be able to support the university. So find the optimal balance between specialization and size that nobody else offers. So this is one strategy. The complementary strategy to this is you need to find new markets, new pockets of students, potential students. And if you look at the demographic development in Germany, you will see that obviously let's say the pie is smaller. There are fewer younger people that want to study. And there'll be fewer younger people that want to study. And we're also facing competition from private universities as well as other forms of let's say, after-school education.
Yeah.
Tertiary education. So we need to move. And the question is how? And for me, there's a big market out there waiting for us. And I'm a bit opportunistic, and I'll tell you why. US, UK, they exported their educational system. So basically they were continuously having, let's say, overseas students trying to search for a better education simply because in their home countries, the educational system had issues or lacking, or even if not, did not enjoy the same reputation as those institutions.
Yes.
And now the American system is for me, both in terms of quality as well as in terms of, let's say, value for money. It's a no-go, if we're honest. It just doesn't pay off. It's too expensive. And the UK system has become the same.
Yeah.
And this, for me, means that it's a huge potential market share for Germany. We have an education system which is good, which is solid, has a good reputation, and we just need to find out how to export it. And this is why I have placed emphasis on internationalizing the university, because I think we have a very good product that we can export, and even though there might not be, let's say, enough customers in this country, I'm sure there are other markets where our education system could fare very well. And moreover, I think that the mixture of internationals and local students can improve the entire quality of the whole study experience.
Yeah.
Because, the study experience is what's going to make a difference. This is why I'm placing a lot of emphasis on presence on campus. Because if we make everything online, we cannot compete. We are not Harvard, we are not MIT. And I think let's say the point where we can compete is actually the whole student experience. Yeah. And this kind of possibility that you don't have in many places. You have very close contact with your professors and your teachers, with other students. You have the freedom to determine what's happening and how you learn. And this kind of flexibility is pretty unique, but this experience needs to be kept. And I don't think we can safeguard this advantage if we go purely online. So this is basically what's behind internationalization. It ultimately it is about enriching experience for all the students, and it's about gaining access to new educational source markets in order to not only maximize my capacity utilization, but also help that we get um, more resources that the economy needs. We need educated talent, and
Yes.
there's a war on talent. So by getting the talents here and developing them, they can even stay here and contribute to the local and regional economy, hopefully. So those are basically my reasoning or motivation behind what I'm doing, because I don't see another alternative. I've broken my head. I said, how are we going to deal with this? Because we cannot be swimming and fighting in
Yeah.
order to stay afloat for a long time. I cannot run this university at full gas the whole time. The engine will overheat. So we need to find a more sustainable solution. And the sustainable solution is internationalization and some other aspects. But this is, for me, the main area.
Yeah, and you're taking on something that is already happening and just make it more convenient. As I overheard you presenting the possibility to have more English language programs, or at least the exams could be easily done also in the English language. So even if the study language remains German. So you're emphasizing the already existing structures to make it easier for more international students and to enrich and benefit the whole ecosystem that is the university.
I also see a huge opportunity with AI. I think the biggest potential I see with AI is the removal of language barriers.
Yeah.
My vision, short-term vision, which we're actually working on, is to have a situation where anyone, when the teaching staff can hold a lecture or run a teaching event or a learning event in any language they please, and people can attend and listen and participate in any language they wish. Because automatic translation is doing giant leaps, it's really good. And I think this offers a huge potential when it comes to language barriers, which is the thing that has been affecting us the most, and also inhibiting, let's say, foreign students from studying in Germany.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of potential there. So I'm pretty confident that language is not going to be an issue in the next years.
Do you think it is still beneficial, or maybe even easier to obtain to learn a foreign language with AI? So it's not just replacing like a filter, so you never get in contact to the national language, but to also help you understand it quicker, maybe?
It depends how you use it. Again, I'm going to come back down to the whole concept of self-discipline. I think that the big danger of AI is that it makes things easy and it does them well. And I think it's very tempting to actually, do something very quickly than before, it took you ages. I've been experimenting a lot with different applications, and I realize how tempting it is. This is again the danger, because the question is, what if we let's say go the easy way, the productive way also? What does that mean for our skill set? Now you might argue that some of those skills are not going to be necessary, but all those skills are associated with meta skills. And I'm more concerned about the meta skills. I'll give you an example. Recently, I had an idea to write a paper, mostly a very conceptual paper. So I just put it through an AI program. There are different ones, and I said, make me an academic text, blah blah blah. So I made a text. When I first read it, I said, oh wow, am I still relevant?
Mm-hmm.
It sounded very good and it read very well. And then I told her to write it in the style of Alexis Papathanassis because I plenty of my works online.
Yeah.
And he can basically copy my writing style and apply it to the document. So something came out of that. And I saw it and I said, oh, wow, I would have written it exactly the same way. It looks impressive. I loved it.
Yeah.
But then obviously I said, okay, this is not something I can do. I cannot just get an AI document and submit as my own. It goes against everything I believe. So I had the self-discipline to say, put it aside and write yourself. So I wrote myself. Then it became the interesting thing. When I compared the two versions, the one that AI created and the one which impressed me, and the one I wrote after my usual process, and I compared them, there was no comparison. The AI version seemed very flat and meaningless. So while the first impression was, whoa, then it was a bit like someone who pretends to know a lot and knows nothing. And when I compared to the actual other one I wrote myself, this one was far superior. So the thing that worries me is that we should not overestimate what AI can actually do. It is a language model. That's all it is.
Yes.
It sounds well. It's very good in terms of language, but content is not just about form and ideas and let's say innovations. Is not just about the form. It's also about the content. So this is what I learned by experimenting with it. So I think we need to use it carefully.
Yes.
And like all technologies that come, I think it's here to stay. I'm not a skeptic. I think there are numerous use cases, huge potential. But that means we also need to know exactly why we're doing it, what we're sacrificing, and what are we gaining by it. I'm looking very much forward to, let's say, the new possibilities. So, again, I'm not a skeptic. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I think you're not skeptic. You rather seem curious but careful, and I think this is a very good mindset to technology in general. But as you said, different appliances for AI in everyday life, as you said, like planning tours and trips. But I heard a story from a colleague who once told that he was invited for a marriage, and the directions on how to kind of leave from that remote village in somewhere in Italy were generated with ChatGPT, to name it here, and the directions were totally wrong. No information was double checked whatsoever. So I think this is some good example on how you should always be responsible and in charge for what actually comes out.
Of course, again, we must understand, I think it's a misconception that AI is intelligent. It's not intelligent. It understands words and language patterns.
Yeah.
But it does not attribute meaning. To a certain degree, it's like a parrot. It's very good at talking, but does not really comprehend emotionally and conceptually, intellectually, what it's saying. And I think this is because meaning is something that unique to humans. Simply because we have, the instincts of survival, all our instincts are what allows us to attach meaning to it. A machine, a computer does not have that. It can simulate that, but it doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you put language, let's say, just dealing with language patterns, and it depends on what the model is feeding on. And the problem I see now is that we are actually polluting the internet. What's happening is that everyone's creating content with AI, which is not controlled, which then goes online and gets fed into the same AI model.
Yeah.
And eventually what you are having is more and more, let's say, trash coming in. and this trash is fed to the eye, which produces more trash, and give it a few generations, and basically, this will lead to a whole lot of nonsense. Well, I'm sure there will be some kind of algorithms over time to check and double check those things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is again a situation where we need to understand that this tool is only as good as its input.
Mm. And it's always, as you said, it's always more flat, and it's basically the average. It's the most obvious following words will follow, and you will see there is no spontaneous ideas flowing, no flaws in there. And personally, I can see this while using to kind of double check, and sometimes it flattens out so much that it's basically meaningless, even if it conveys like information. And in some cases, it's good, but it's never really meaningful. And just to kind of step back into the topic of tourism in general, as I said before the recording, I heard in a lecture that there's different new kinds of, I don't know if they're new, but at least I never heard of them, like a category, more sustainable forms of tourism, like calm tourism, where you just take your time and not fill it up. Yeah. Would you introduce a bit about that?
So you want me to talk about, let's say, sustainable tourism?
Yeah.
Well, there are two approaches in terms of sustainability. The classic one we all know, and which is the most popular one, is conservation. Has to be about conserving. So in this context of conserving, tourism is automatically evil, because what you're doing is you're depleting natural resources by visiting them, by eating, by producing trash, by traveling. So you're actually depleting, harming resources. So the instinct here, in order to remain sustainable, we need to protect them, and we need to conserve it, make sure it doesn't get altered or changed. There's another aspect of sustainability, which is, let's say, a kind of regenerative approach. Let me give you an example. I always use this example with in speeches. It's about the $9 million shark. Sorry, the $2 million shark. Sorry, the $2 million shark. Now, if you take a shark, and they actually, this like Palau, if they kill the fish for its meat, this shark is worth around about, let's say, $100, $110. That's how much this shark is worth. Now, in Palau, the shark is worth around about 2 million euros in revenue during its lifetime, simply because of the divers that go there to see sharks. Now, if we take, let's say, the fish, the shark, which is, let's say, a species, or let's say a natural resource, if you wish, this is clearly a case of tourism acting as a catalyst, as a multiplier of its value economically, which of course increases the potential to protect it, simply because it's worth a lot of money for the local community. So instead of eating it, they are protecting it because it's generating a lot of tourism income. Similar effects you can have in places like, in Masai Mara in Africa, where a lot of tourists come every year to observe the animals and so on and so forth. So to a certain degree, tourism can act as a multiplier for the economic value for certain natural resources, and therefore ensure let's say, or facilitate their preservation. That's a one aspect. Another aspect is during the pandemic, That's another example. During the pandemic, a lot of cruises stopped. Basically, we had a 2-3 year sail. So what happened was a lot of Caribbean islands were living from cruise tourism. So in a lot of those places, there were no cruise relevant jobs or no ways to make money from cruise ship. So what happened was a lot of those people that had migrated to those islands to get a job moved back to their home islands.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem was that those islands where they were originally, the cruise islands, had the infrastructure in order to maintain and sustain this population.
Yep.
But as soon as they returned to the smaller islands, then the infrastructure was not there. So they started obviously killing animals, cutting trees, etc., in order to sustain themselves, producing a lot of environmental devastation, which was not necessary before, was not done because they were on their home island. So I can find a number of examples where tourism, if planned properly, and is also done with a regenerative mindset in the background, can at least be more sustainable. Obviously, there are different ways to travel, and there's sustainable and non-sustainable ways to travel. Important is to consider sustainability not just unidimensional. It's not just the ecological dimension, it is the economic and it's also the social. And essentially they have an interrelationship. So if you overfocus on one, you will eventually experience the effects in the other dimension, which backfire. This was the example I gave you with the Caribbean islands.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's important to see it from a holistic perspective, and it is a system. And I think a lot of times we are overemphasizing on the ecological dimension, and also within the ecological dimension, we are overemphasizing in the whole issue about air quality and emissions.
Yeah.
It's not just about CO2.
It's very simplified, and it's. I think it's easy to demonize.
Exactly. So, to some degree, for example, I know in the cruise industry they're talking about LNG and CO2. Now, LNG obviously does not produce CO2 as much, but it does produce methane, which is maybe worse. And interesting enough, if you look at let's say the CO2 emissions of different types of ships, two kinds of ships have the highest CO2 emission. One is obviously the cruise ships, simply because it's not just transport, but you have also a hotel, you have people, so the energy requirement is bigger. But the second worst type of ship to in terms of CO2 is which one do you think? LNG carriers, because they need to keep the low temperatures to keep the gas liquefied in order to import it, so they have huge energy costs. So, which is quite ironic. But then if you look at those types of ships cumulatively, if you see the entire fleet, you will see that in most cases, both those two are generally have a very, very small impact globally because there's simply not that many.
Yeah.
So when it comes to sustainability, it's very difficult for me to say there are sustainable forms of tourism and unsustainable forms of tourism. I think the social sustainability depends on the particular setup. Not all tours are the same, and we also need to consider the multidimensional aspect. I think sustainability is becoming in tourism more of a philosophy and more of a stance, which enables us to successively and progressively improve where we can and maintain the balances. So I think that the mistake is to see it as a target. Sustainability is not a target. It's a way of doing business. It's a philosophy of doing business, and it's a development, an evolution. And I think this message has come across in the tourism industry in general. Not just because they're ethical. I think it's also an issue of success. For example, in the cruise sector, energy efficiency is a central aspect to maintaining lower costs and remaining competitive. If you look at over the last decades, all the cost, let's say cost items in cruises have decreased, except one, energy. So they have a very, very, let's say, solid economic incentive to reduce energy costs, become more energy efficient, which is automatically more, let's say, contributes more to a more sustainable way of traveling. So this is basically the intersection between profitability and sustainability is where we need to move. And I think this offers the first quick wins and basically getting this progressive evolution rolling. Not activism, but pragmatism.
Of course. And definitely the economic incentive usually works pretty good, at least in the more recent economy. And if you can't find better reasons for the environment or morally, then at least if you can save money or you get more of your revenue because of your kind of reducing the cost, and it's beneficial for both the planet and economical reasons and social reasons maybe. That's a win-win situation.
There's another aspect maybe that can affect, let's say, this profitability is the issue of regulation. So, by regulating, you incentivize certain behaviors against others. I mean, this is something where we all come into play, and there have been quite a few. Something really big happening last year was the European trading system for emissions, an emission trading system, which is applied to shipping, which is very interesting because this means now that essentially the more harmful emissions you let out, the more money you have to pay, which kind of supports this economic incentive further. But only for Europe. Now, interesting, how will this develop in terms of competitiveness compared to other regions of the world? This remains to be seen. But again, there's a lot happening. Sometimes under the radar, I'm very surprised that nobody's talking about this European emission trading system we applied to shipping. It doesn't just affect cruises, it also affects like all trade that we do with ships. Would that mean increasing prices? I don't know what this is going to do, but nobody's talking about it. Which in the press you see hardly anything about it, which is very surprising to me because it's a bit of a game changer. Anyway.
It's always a question of what gets emphasized. I mean, if it's carbon tax on cars, definitely the uproar is louder than it is for ships, and even if you have a better system for shipping. We're slowly coming to an end, but I usually always ask for book recommendations for anyone who's interested in the topic. Do we have anything interesting for us to read or get into?
I would books. I mean, for this area, I would not recommend books actually. Books are quite descriptive and you don't get a lot of insights. I would highly recommend journals. I'll tell you why. Journals are something like, for me, it's a bit like in the music business. You usually have a single, okay?
Yeah.
A single. So, it's a new song, it's up to date and everything, you get the single and you hear the song. After a while, when it's not new anymore, they add a few crappy songs next to it and they make it an album. Right? Those are books. After it gets really old, they basically take, let's say, a lot of different articles and put them in songs, and put them in the best of the 90s, the best of the 80s, and so on and so forth. Those are called textbooks that we use for students. So my strong recommendation, especially for subjects like this one, which are interdisciplinary, and they are pre-pragmatic. I mean, tourism is a fairly young subject working its way to an academic discipline. So it doesn't have to be well-established theories. I mean, the basic theories I can count in the fingers of my hand. I would recommend to really read articles and English-speaking international articles, because in Germany we're not there yet. So I would highly recommend the classical journals. You have Tourism Management, which is amongst the top journals in tourism. I would recommend Tourism Review, which is also a very traditional and a very high impact journal. Annals of Tourism Research, which is a bit more about methodologies and concepts, and an International Journal of Hospitality Management. I could also recommend as a journal. Have I forgotten any? I think if those four are good places to start looking at, and there's a lot about every subject within tourism, and that means you get really quick, up to date, qualitatively high value information on tourism. Because just because something's in a book, it doesn't mean it's a good point where it makes sense. But those journals, they go through a peer review process, which is very rigorous, and ensures that everything that comes out there is at least controlled by people who know what they're talking about. And therefore, don't waste your time reading entire books. It's the most efficient way to just get into a journal article. And what you can also do is take the article, if you don't want to read it, just put it through AI and ask it to summarize it for you. So I think this is the quickest way to really get a good overview about what's happening in the field. So my advice is, don't worry too much about the books. I've written 11 books myself, but I'm not. I will still tell you, go and look at the journals, because you get, with a little effort, a lot of information which is up to date, and it's quality control.
Yeah, that's not only a recommendation, but also a good tip for getting more recent knowledge. So books are better for old knowledge, for already established subjects, and the more recent you need to have it, then go for articles.
No, the problem with this is that the articles are very specialized, so you need to read a few to get a big picture.
Yeah. Okay.
But books generally try to give you a big picture. They kind of synthesize it and filter it. But if you oversynthesize and you overfilter it, you lose the taste. It's like with everything. So, and I think AI offers a huge possibility to manage this huge volume of data and filter it in every way. What I've done is I've created kind of a small AI model, which I fed with only my published work and my teaching work and everything. So I basically put in all my material. So you can basically ask it questions based on only the material that I've created, which is pretty interesting. Because again, I'm basically using this AI model to provide an easy way to query and question everything that has to do with what I've produced.
Yeah,
I think there's nothing preventing anyone from doing this, collecting articles on a particular topics, filtering them, and being able to extract them and mine them using AI. I think this will be able to give you a very good overview if you are interested in something.
Yeah, thank you. This is a very good tip to find the principles. Speaking of principle, thank you for taking the time. That was not intended. And I will let you know when this is coming out, and see you next time.
Thank you, everyone, and it was a lot of fun talking to you.
If you've enjoyed listening to my podcast, you can show support by following me and hit the bell to never miss out on my latest content. I'd appreciate a positive review too. You can find more of my content on www.emildroot.com. Thanks and bye for now.